This is CBC Vancouver News.
I think that the main thing that their presence does is deter people from riding transit if they are poor, if they're unhoused.
More officers. Metro Vancouver Transit Police expands its force with new community officers, but activists say not everyone stands to benefit.
The majority of subjects we find are not prepared.
A warning from search and rescue crews: if you're headed to the backcountry, watch for increasing avalanche risk. And elation for some soccer fans, heartbreak for others as World Cup fever strikes BC. Good evening, I'm Lien Yeung. Thanks for joining us. Metro Vancouver transit riders can expect to see a new uniform on board next year. Transit Police is expanding its force with community safety officers. But as Janella Hamilton reports, some policing advocates fear the program may do more harm than good for marginalized people.
By next year, this patch will be sewn onto 24 new uniforms belonging to Metro Vancouver Transit Police's community safety officers.
They'll be attending community events, they'll be doing crowd control, they'll be doing traffic enforcement.
The new program will cost an estimated $1.6 million in 2023 and will be funded by TransLink. Constable Amanda Steed says the new officers will not have guns, but will carry batons, pepper spray, and handcuffs. One of their duties will be fare enforcement.
They can write tickets, they can make arrests, although they do make citizens arrests. They're more of a report and observe, more public safety focused.
BC's public safety minister says the program will allow transit police to focus their resources on serious crime, but not everyone's on board.
Now we're contending with a transit system that has 3 levels of enforcement on it.
Meenakshi Mano with Pivot Legal Society says funding for the new community safety officer program could be better spent elsewhere.
I think that the main thing that their presence does is deter people from riding transit if they are poor, if they're unhoused.
Steed says the program is a reflection of the concerns expressed by some transit users.
I think we should have more transit police because the incidents are increasing daily, it seems.
Why do we need more police if there's already a customer service branch that can call the police when they're needed?
I don't know what that's going to really change as opposed to investing in the actual infrastructure.
And if we are getting more transit police, that's much better, more safety for us.
Recently, we've seen a lot of stranger assaults in different cities in the Lower Mainland, and that is concerning. So that is something that we hope to alleviate by adding community safety officers as a visible uniform presence.
Mano believes a greater police presence may do more harm than good. Steed says the community safety officers will be responding to low-risk criminal behavior in areas where transit police receive a lot of their emergency calls, with new officers going through a rigorous 10-week program followed by another 7 weeks of field training in areas like mental health awareness and de-escalation. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
As the province sees an uptick in respiratory illnesses in kids, doctors are increasingly worried about the hours-long wait times in some emergency rooms, including BC Children's Hospital.
It's getting quite overwhelmed at the moment. And in fact, one of the other hospitals, Surrey Memorial Hospital, which also sees children, normally sees about 70 pediatric children in their emergency room, are seeing up to 250 during this season.
Wolak says kids are getting sicker because previous COVID infections have shown they disrupt the immune system. Adding BC has a low vaccination rate for kids after confirming 6 children and youth recently died after contracting influenza. The province says it is launching a vaccine blitz and opening drop-in clinics across BC. Avalanche Canada is reporting dangerous conditions across a third of the province. And after a pair of hikers were stranded overnight this week near Cranbrook, search and rescue crews are reminding the public the incidents are often preventable. Our Corey Bullock explains what it takes to minimize winter hazards in the backcountry.
Winter doesn't officially start for a couple more weeks, but get out into the South Star trails in Cranbrook and you'll feel it. Dwight Yoakum is a search and rescue veteran and says no matter the year, people enter the backcountry unprepared.
And if you look at why they had injuries, a lot of it's related to footwear. They just weren't, they didn't have the proper footwear on.
Yeung says being prepared makes a possible rescue that much easier.
We're finding that the decisions you made before you left your house will determine how enjoyable your trip is going to be. And if you run into a problem, that will determine how successful you are at allowing us to rescue you.
That's where a trip plan comes in. Tell someone where you're going and when you plan to be back.
And that doesn't mean Googling how to get to the parking lot of where you're going to park the car.
Another key part is checking the weather, including the avalanche forecast.
Anyone that's looking at heading out into the backcountry in the winter, particularly in Western Canada, should be considering avalanche hazards.
Avalanche education and training, essential gear, and an emergency communication device are all necessary.
The Kootenay region has what we call a persistent weak layer, buried down a little bit more than half a meter in most places. In the sort of sea to sky area, we actually have that layer as well, or a very similar layer. So we're reaching this point where the likelihood of triggering avalanches on that layer is increasing.
Aside from those high hazard areas, in general, with colder temperatures and little precipitation in the forecast, Avalanche Canada is predicting lessened risk for much of Western Canada. Nevertheless, still urges people to be prepared. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Residents from the downtown east side had the chance to do some shopping for much-needed items. The 9th annual Street Store was back. The free one-day pop-up at Oppenheimer Park gives everyone a chance to browse for clothing, toiletries, and get a haircut. As Yasmin Gandam tells us, the theme of dignity was at the forefront.
It was warm, wanted, and in good health. That's the main thing around this community. We must maintain good health.
Michael Nardacchioni is a peer support worker in the downtown east side. He's been coming to the street market every year, but says this year it's especially needed.
We've gone through 2 years of COVID, not being able to fraternize or communicate with each other. And this is a good outlet for everybody to do that, especially this time of year around Christmas. We get to meet other people, we get to meet the community, get to meet peer support and other people that want to help us.
Over 600 people attending Saturday picking up items they needed.
What kind of items did you pick up today?
Well, a blanket.
Yes.
Okay, some underwear, and a couple other things.
The event is organized by Embody to Empower, an organization that provides entrepreneurial resources to people on the downtown east side. Organizers say the true purpose is for residents to be able to choose and select the things they need, calling it a dignified shopping experience.
Listen to what people need rather than assume, so that people actually have that sense of autonomy returned to themselves. So it's really nice to see that people walk out with things they actually like.
Wong says it's emotional to see all the people lining up year after year.
It's really heartwarming to talk to some of the residents here and just get to know the individuals, because it's the human experience, right? Like every person has a different story, and it really does shift the stigma that we see typically.
Volunteers feel the same and say this year the demand has never been greater.
I think there's actually just more people in need down here, and it just opens your eyes to everything down here, and you really can be part of the community and giving back.
The gently used items all donated from people in the community. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, World Cup energy is alive and well in Vancouver, with the last big quarterfinal game results coming in today. France and England battled it out on the pitch, but ultimately France bid England adieu as it heads to the semifinals. And the French community in Vancouver showed up to cheer them on from afar.
It's important for me to be here because I'm away from my country, and it's good to have to share this passion for my country and for the sport with other people from France.
They should have called those fouls. I think there's a little bias in this game, but yeah, it's a fabulous game, fabulous World Cup.
Fabulous for him, of course. France is scheduled to play Morocco on Wednesday. It's the most fun you can have with your knitwear on. That's what the organizers of the Ugly Christmas Sweater Dash say about their annual fundraiser, which returned today after a pandemic break. Dashers of all ages dressed up in their holiday gear to walk or run the 5K route in Anmore. Organizers say when they lost their friend to a terminal illness in 2013, that's when they decided to help grant wishes and have been fundraising for a different charity every year since then.
We've always chosen a different charity that sort of meant something to the organizing committee, and this year it's Act 2 Child and Family Services, which is a Tri-City-based organization that supports services for women that have been affected by abuse or neglect, family services like parent education, counseling services, housing support.
The Dash has raised around $250,000, according to organizers. As for the Dashers, there were trophies not only for the ugliest sweater, but also for best group costume, ugliest kid sweater, and ugliest dog sweater. To another festive tradition on the island, Victoria's Market Square was filled with music today at the 44th annual Tuba Christmas. And that's the sound of about 50 tuba and euphoniums playing Christmas carols. Crowds braved to the cold weather to take in the performance. The concert raises money to support community organizations on Vancouver Island that distribute food and toys to those in need.
We're raising money for the Times Colonist Christmas Fund, and we're doing it with the help of Long and McQuaid, the Victoria Symphony, the University, Czech TV. There's a lot of people behind making this happen.
Tuba Christmas dates back to 1974 and originated in New York City. Fundraising concerts now take place worldwide. You may have heard about the shortage of Christmas trees this year. Well, last year we sent John Hernandez out to collect a tree himself and to walk you through how to do it. Take a look.
So it's the holidays, and what better way to get into a merry mood than to cut down your own Christmas tree? Well, to do it legally, the first thing you should know is there's some red tape, and not the festive kind. You need to register for a permit on the BC government's website. It's quick, easy, and free. Print off the paperwork, and the adventure begins. Before you take off on your Christmas adventure, make sure you have your tree cutting permit with you at all times. Some other useful items, a first aid kit, some rope, and the right tool for the job. In BC, you can't just chop down a tree anywhere. Odds are you'll have to go on a bit of a trek. Trusty online maps from the province show you exactly where you can cut, depending on which region you live. For us, that meant a trip up the Sea to Sky Highway north of Vancouver. Let's go. Be prepared for a hike in. We're here just outside of Squamish. This is the closest place you can come to if you live in Metro Vancouver to cut down your own tree. And if you do have a permit, you'll have to do it underneath power lines. That's because these areas are regularly cleared. Head to high ground to get a good view of what's in the area. And don't be afraid to size up any potential candidates. Before you start cutting, make sure you find the perfect tree for you. I like this one. Make sure it fits right on top of your car, and when you start cutting, make sure you do it right at the base. Nothing to it. Now, a lot of people might come out here with the preconceived idea that the trees out here are full and picturesque like you'd see in the movies, when in fact, a lot of them are actually quite sparse. But they're still beautiful because you cut it down yourself. Safely secure the tree to the roof of your car, or even squeeze it inside if you can. then you're ready to hit the road.
Steady as a rock. Well, she's all loaded up. Now it's time to head home, bust out the decorations, and sip some eggnog. John Hernandez, CBC News, Squamish.
An Iranian author arrested and not heard from since. What her cousin from Vancouver wants the public to know after the break.
What it means to be part of a movement, to be a financial force for change.
With the cost of living climbing, it's getting harder for BC families to get ahead. So to help make life more affordable right now, BC and Canada are bringing down parents' childcare costs. Many BC families can now save up to $550 more per child per month. And with more licensed childcare spaces opening around the province, quality childcare is now more affordable than ever, helping make life a little easier for your family.
Boston Pizza's new holiday menu is here. Come try Boston Pizza's new holiday menu, now with free Ferrero Rocher.
During Leon's Christmas clearance event, you can hold the payments until 2024. Visit leons.ca for details.
Amir Bajakian is one of many Iranians in Metro Vancouver worried about family members back home. This week, his cousin, author and playwright Semiramis Babi'i was arrested.
If you don't talk about them, it would be more difficult for the person behind the wall, because they want to actually tell that prisoner that they're forgotten. Nobody's talking about them and nobody remembers who they were and what their story is.
He says no one has heard from his cousin since her arrest on Monday. She is one of many who is alleged to have disappeared at the hands of the regime. Bajakian is trying to keep his cousin's name in the spotlight because he believes it will help protect her. Iranians here and around the world are sharing those similar fears. And today on UN Human Rights Day, demonstrators rallied in support of Iranian protesters. As the CBC's Jamie Strachan reports, many say they are angry and looking for support from those in power.
On UN Human Rights Day, voices around the world
and in cities across Canada are speaking out against the Iranian regime.
They don't care about the life of the people. They just care about themselves. They are like a mafia in Iran.
This fear just turns to rage, and that would be double.
It's been 2 days since Mohsen Shakari became the first protester executed by Iran. Part of the protests that have spread to every corner of the country, posing serious challenges to the Iranian government. Human rights groups say Shakari was convicted after a quick show trial.
Obviously, the regime feels that bloodshed is a way to be able to scare off, and it's their response, which I actually think it's going to backfire.
The protest began in September after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in custody after being detained by morality police for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. Since then, according to Iranian human rights groups, nearly 500 protesters have been killed and thousands more detained as the Iranian regime scrambles to quell dissent and establish control. Experts say this unrest differs from past uprisings.
The youth that we're talking about, if we hear their slogans, they very clearly are saying, until death. Like, we will fight for this until death.
The Iranian regime is also being criticized by the international community for other issues, with the West condemning its entrenched military relationship with Russia.
Since August, Tehran has transferred hundreds of UAVs to Moscow, breaking international law. We're concerned that Russia intends to provide Iran with more advanced military components.
Iranians around the world and here in Canada are watching this all unfold, watching those back home fight for basic human rights, knowing that similar movements in the past have been brutally crushed, and hoping this time will be different. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
And you're looking at a gorgeous shoreline shot from this afternoon from the Wickennish Inn in Tofino. Rain there on the lens. Lots of clouds, but sunshine on the horizon. I will have your full forecast coming up after the break. Stay with us. Let's take a look at that weather forecast now. It's been a bit drizzly out there and cool. Here's where temperatures are looking at across the south coast. YVR sitting at 5 degrees. If you're in the valley, looking at a 4. If you're in Nanaimo, also looking at 4 degrees, a little bit warmer towards Victoria, sitting at 7 degrees. And tomorrow, Victoria is looking at 6 degrees. And as you head up the coast, you can see dry and sunny at the freezing mark for Prince Rupert, -18 though in Dease Lake. However, as we head towards interior, looking at a bit of snowfall. If you're out towards the Kootenays, in fact, up to 20 centimeters along those highway passes, -1 for Cranbrook. Sneak of sun there, hopefully in through the afternoon hours. And tomorrow, more drizzle for us here on the south coast. 7 degrees will be our high. Temperatures will drop quite a bit as we head through the week, but we are going to see quite a bit of sunshine. Tuesday, though, we are looking at some light rainfall before Wednesday, Thursday. Things dry off again, looking sunny at 3 degrees. And finally, a little more holiday spirit to end your night. While the Stanley Park miniature train is still out of commission, the Kettle Valley train, built during the early 1900s, is back for another year of festive fun. We hopped on board for some Christmas cheer.
To the historic Katamani Steam Railway. I'll have 2 lineups, one group to my right, one group to my left.
We've got 18 trains going, and they filled up a month ago.
All aboard! Starting from my right side. I retired from Ontario, moved out here in '94, got involved. I heard they wanted to start this railway, so I've been here ever since it started. Back in the old days, we had one open-air car in the summertime, and we had a canopy on it, so it kind of looked like one of those Oregon coaches, wagon trains, and there's very few operating in Canada.
It's over 100 years old. It's 105 or so years old, and it's still, the crew keeps it in tip-top shape. A lot of the parts they have to make here because they are unavailable, but they keep it running and keep it going. We rarely miss a day of operation, so.
I love all about magic trains.
Magic trains with Santa, right?
Kind of takes us back when we were kids, you know, and to see the excitement in their faces, especially at this time of year, it's wonderful. It really is. It warms your heart. It does, yeah.
Oh, that looks like a lot of fun. All right, that does it for us this Saturday night. Thank you for watching. For news at any hour, you can always, of course, go to our website, cbc.ca/BC. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night.